Welcome back to our weekly Question Pro Fireside Chats. It's great to have you, and it's my absolute pleasure to be joined by two very special guests today, Jim Eccleston and Duncan Stewart, both managing partners from 56 Degree Insights based up in Edinburgh, Scotland. Two fantastic folks that I think we're going to have a really, really good session to just talk about the journey. I think a lot of folks have taken a very similar journey or are thinking about this journey, right? Jim and Duncan have been doing this for years now with Kantar. Now they've kind of created their own shop 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm just super excited to kind of dig into that story and take questions from the audience as well. Welcome, Jim and Duncan. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here, and thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. So listen, I think we're going to have so many things to talk about in terms of the journey and what you guys are up to at 56 Degree Insight. But I have to start. I mean, it looks like you guys have been doing some gin tasting and beer tasting all week for one of your clients. So I think we need to start there because it is Friday after all.
Can you tell just by looking at our faces that we'd be doing lots of the
I think your LinkedIn profile is a hint, but I'd love to hear more.
One of our favourite clients is the Scottish Retail Food and Drink Awards. We're actually the insight partner on these awards, and it's all about finding good examples of local foods and drinks around Scotland that are sold in Scotland and elsewhere. So right across the food and drink spectrum, including gin and beer. And whilst we're there to provide insight, and we do that, we also have the benefit of being chosen as judges in several of the categories. And two of these categories, yes, indeed, are gin, Scottish gins, and Scottish beers. And I'm a gin drinker, and Duncan's a beer drinker, so we're delighted to be doing that. And last year, actually, when we did it, I had 27 gins to taste, blind and then once branded as well. So that was over a longer period, shall we say. This year it's a bit more manageable. It's about 15 gins. But Duncan, you've had a few beers.
Yeah, and it's all very. I sometimes tell people it's actually quite hard work, and they don't believe me. But you, as well as tasting it and consuming it, you've got to take a lot of notes and so on, and the packaging, its environmental credentials, the labeling, etc., and so on, and fill all these forms in. So I'm always sort of saying, isn't this all? It's not all fun, but actually, it's a great job actually, and it's a great opportunity to try new products, Scottish products, especially when it's beer.
That's amazing. It sounds like such a great perk of the job, and it sounds like such an exciting client to work with. I think this, in some ways, it's kind of reflective of your journey. It's like you've really kind of built this specialty with kind of tourism brands, in kind of the local Scotland area. Tell us a little bit more about your journey. Obviously, it started, Kantar before. Now you guys are running your own shop. Tell us a little bit more about how you got here.
Okay. Duncan, will I go first?
Yeah, you go first, Jim, then I'll chip in.
The reason I'll go first is I'm older than Duncan, so I've got my story started slightly earlier. I joined the Scottish Tourist Board, as it was then, Visit Scotland, back in the early 90s. It was my dream job. I had a degree in geography and a master's degree in tourism. And I discovered this real desire to promote Scotland, but actually I discovered research as part of my undergraduate degree and then in my postgraduate. And the idea of researching why people might come to Scotland was just my dream job. And I got a job in the research department, which was fantastic. I was there for 8 years, learned an awful lot. And of course, back in the 90s, research was a very, very different animal from what it is today. And I'm no doubt onto that. But late 90s, I decided I wanted to go agency side because I wanted to get my hands dirty and do more of the research rather than simply commissioning agencies. And I joined what was then Scotland's biggest independent market research company, System 3. Through acquisition, that eventually became TNS and Kantar. I spent far too many years, 20 years at Kantar, and learned an awful lot. Duncan, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I had a bit of a parallel journey. I was at university in Edinburgh, also studying tourism management. And in 1994, I think it was, I took a year out to join for a 1 year period the research department at the Scottish Tourist Board. And Jim was my colleague, so we've worked with each other for many years. And one of my main jobs was actually being in charge of the research library. This is a sign of the time. So no internet, and students would come in and I would help them find cross tabs of data on surveys that had been research reports and so on. It was all the way things were done then. So, but yeah, I worked there for a year, went back to university, finished my degree, and then I went and worked at Yorkshire Tourist Board in the research department for about a year and a half. I, a bit like Jim, was sort of keen to go agency side. It always seemed quite exciting. I kept in touch with Jim, heard about his adventures at System 3 there. So I joined Jim in 1998, was it perhaps? I think actually, goodness me. And yeah, that was working at the agency System 3, which eventually became TNS, eventually became Kantar up until, well, 3 years ago. And that's the point when we decided actually, well, to set up our agency, 56 Degree Insight.
Wow. What a fascinating journey. I mean, I think it's just so amazing that you both kind of in uni decided, hey, this kind of tourism thing is what really gets me excited. And now all this time later, that's kind of still the specialty, right? That's still the work that you guys are doing. Was that by design? Was that kind of continuous all the way through that journey, that this was kind of the area that you're focused in? I know a lot of insights folks, especially doing small consultancies, are kind of like, we'll take whatever work we can get, right? We don't necessarily can specialize, want to specialize. Has this just been key to the strategy all along? Was it by accident? Tell us a little bit about how you kind of found that focus and stuck with it.
It definitely wasn't by accident, because we do both have a real passion for the tourism industry and recreation and leisure choices and so on that people make. And actually, when we joined System 3, Kantar, TNS, we very much became, that was all managed, the whole tourism and leisure and recreation research function was all managed from the Edinburgh office for TNS and latterly for Kantar for the UK. That was our focus. But however, as a big agency, Kantar and TNS was always expanding and changing its focus and so on. We got pulled into lots of other areas, which, other sectors, other types of research and so on. Which at the time, probably being honest, we're thinking, really enjoying the tourism stuff, and we're being asked to work in automotive or financial or whatever. But actually, it was the best thing that ever happened for each of us, because we learned so much more by expanding our horizons there. So when it came to late 2018, early 2019, when Kantar decided that they had a change of strategy, we were at that stage latterly, we were managing the Scottish operation for Kantar jointly between us. They decided that they wanted to change direction, so the Scottish office was being closed down. It was a real opportunity for us to start our own business, and also to refocus in the areas that we really enjoyed, which was tourism, recreation, and so on. But because we'd been working in all these other areas, we gathered a lot of clients and expertise in these areas as well, and enjoyed them. So we're not just a tourism research agency by any means. But
since working in all these other sectors, possibly not because we wanted to, but because we had to, meant that we brought a lot of professionalism and different sort of techniques and different approaches, which then, when we set up our agency, we could bring back to the tourism sector. And actually, I mean, while tourism is still very much a core area for us, and one that we have probably the greatest passion for, as discussed sort of regarding beer and gin, we've kind of evolved into, we're working with a lot of other industries, complementary industries, food, drink, the environment sector is massive, outdoor recreation, nature, transport. So it's kind of grown arms and legs really, but it's still, very much something it's been really exciting to develop from that initial route.
Interesting. And so tell us a little bit more about that moment when you kind of decided to start 56 Degree Insight, right? So clearly there was this kind of strategic change going on at Kantar. How did you two kind of come back together? What was kind of the starting vision? Did you know that it was going to be kind of this focus on local Scottish tourism and grow from there? Tell us about that moment where you kind of said, you know what, we're going to get together and go strike this out on our own.
I remember it very vividly. We were told, because we were managing the office, we were given some advance warning that that the office was closing on the Friday, and the management team are coming up from London on the Monday to inform the staff in the office what was happening. Initially, you know, there's all the disruption and for us on that Friday, just thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? By the Sunday, Duncan and I had pretty much decided we were going to form our own agency. Our first priority was by our first priority was to look after all the staff in the office. I should say have all moved on to better things, and it's worked out for everybody. So it actually, and Kantar were very good in the way in which they helped manage the closure of the office and made sure people were okay and in the right position and so on. So Kantar remain one of our clients, and we work with Kantar. We've got no animosity or bitterness there at all. We completely understand the decision. It was how we managed it. But by the Sunday, we'd pretty much made up our mind, and it was just before Christmas. And Duncan and I met up in between Christmas and New Year that year, and we started putting our strategy together. And it was very much about, well, what are the clients that we could work with? What are our areas? What can we bring? What are the areas that we have expertise and some credibility in? And we started building up our strategy from there. Duncan, you can explain.
It was sounds a bit cliched, but it was literally at Jim's kitchen table. We're sitting there between Christmas and New Year, working it all out, and then going from this kind of sudden shock of, oh gosh, the office is closing, to a sort of exciting sort of, we can do this. And we'd sort of touted the idea around in the past, maybe in drinks after work, we could do this and so on in the past, but we'd never done it. We'd never taken the step, but this kind of made us, forced our hand. So yeah, quickly after that, we had a bit of a period of obviously finishing things off at Kantar, but not long after that, we were out there, and given our time in the sector, we had many very, very great connections, great clients, so much support from different agencies that we partnered with. So yeah, we got things up and running, and we officially sort of launched mid 2019. So yeah, it was exciting times back then. Yeah.
I love that story. I think this is like so reflective of the founder's story, right? Is that you start on Friday, you're kind of at a kitchen table, it's around Christmas or the holidays, 1,000,000 miles per hour, your brain's like, what are we going to do? And then things just pick up and gain steam, but that by Sunday, you've got a whole new company and they're off to the races, right? I mean, it's just amazing how these things work.
We maybe make it sound too simple. There was a lot of stress and a lot of worry about, will this work? And things like we'd no idea about setting up neither of us had our own business before, so we had a lot of the practicalities to sort out, but we very quickly realized there's loads of support out there. There's lots of people out there, whether it's accountants, whether it's people who are experts in different elements of setting up a business. We pulled on that expertise, and it's doable. Anybody can do it if they've got that passion and that drive and knowledge, and we maybe a bit of luck as well, because we were very well looked after by Kantar. We were able to pick up some ex-Kantar clients without any problems. So we were in a very good position in that respect. So and I'll always be grateful to Kantar in many ways for giving us that opportunity. And as Duncan says, the push that we both maybe needed in some ways to do this.
What's been great, actually, we've noticed is the other agencies, even agencies are potentially competitors, like small agencies similar to ours, have been, there's a great community, of actually people supporting one another, collaborating together and so on. And so much of the work we do is in partnership with whether it's an individual consultant or a small agency or, research suppliers and so on. So that's been brilliant. That's really helped. So while it's just the two of us, in our company, we feel like we've got so many colleagues in a sense. We're always working with others. Yeah,
that makes total sense. And I see that so much in this community, right? It's kind of small shops helping out other small shops. Tell us a little bit more about where do you guys fit within that ecosystem? So we've talked a little bit about your client focus. Tell us a little bit more about kind of your approach, your expertise. How do you kind of approach these projects? What's kind of your expertise in the market when it comes to these research services?
Duncan, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I suppose one of the things we've always been keen to do, right from that sitting around the kitchen table thinking about our strategy, is when we first worked in research, it was all about collecting data, providing data tables, providing charts, providing sort of results. But we kind of wanted to bring our knowledge, our expertise, not just of research, but of business, that we've developed from working with many businesses to this. So our approach is really, we love to be able to sit down with our clients and sort of hear about the big reasons they're doing the research, why they've got a question, why they think we need to really design what we do with them. It may not be a survey, it may be something different, but we work it out so we're doing the right things for them, and then going right through that process with them so that when we're sharing the results, if it is a survey, but we're also sharing what this means in the next stage and so on. And so it's been that, it sounds a little bit cheesy, but being a real partner to your clients. And so what's great is that that's obviously working really well for our clients. We've now got a number of clients who we work with regularly, often small projects, one after another, surveys, but it's one thing after another. And as soon as one finishes, we get into conversations about the next piece and so on. It's very much kind of almost being a bit of a research department for some of our, and also being 56 Degree Insight, we can now work with smaller organizations, and sometimes that's the ones that are most exciting to work with.
Yeah, interesting.
New start organizations with ambitions to grow, rather than just the great big companies who had the big budgets, which the companies like Cantor obviously would like to focus on. So it's been that kind of whole working with lots of different different companies and so on, being their partners, I think has been the successful strategy, and also the one that's been most enjoyable, I think, really.
Yeah. That makes total sense. I mean, I think there's. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, I would also say it's probably easier nowadays in the 2020s to set up this type of business and do the type of work that we do than it ever was in the past, where in the olden days you had a big field force of interviewers, be it telephone or face-to-face. Nowadays, nearly everything is done online, and the beauty of that anybody who's got access to that. Yeah, you need to invest in the tools and so on, but it's all very reachable for most companies. And we feel that we, just like anybody else, can offer all of the tools in terms of whether it's doing online focus groups or depth interviews or online surveys or whatever. We can do all of that, but actually the key thing is conversations with our clients and sitting down with them, whether it's face-to-face or online, really understanding their business issues and how we can help that business, as Duncan says, whether it's a new business to grow. We've also worked with charities as well, and we enjoy that because that's not about making lots of money. It's about helping charities in a way that will make a big difference for them. And that's the beauty of having your own business. You can make these choices. We still have to pay the mortgage, but we can still.
We're not. We decide. I mean, one of the things we decided sort of linked to that was we weren't setting up a business to grow it. We're not trying to sort of take. We don't want to sort of take on staff and have an office, and it's not an empire building exercise. It's about us doing something that we find rewarding, that does pay the mortgage. That's important, and do the kind of work with the kind of clients that we like. We've done the big corporate thing. We want to do our own thing. It's a commercial, it's a business. We've got to make money, but we want to also enjoy going to work every day as well.
Yeah, it's so clear. You can tell from your passion and kind of the emphasis that you put on relationships and partnerships, right? And I think that's got to be the approach. I mean, if you're going to go and start a small shop, there's no point trying to become another research factory where you're just pumping out study after study after study, right? That's what the big guys are doing. That's what they've been set up to do. But Jim, you kind of talked about, hey, the tooling makes this much easier these days, right? That actually as a small shop, you can kind of get that leverage. Tell us a little bit more about that. What are the types of tools and technologies that you're using to kind of make you just two people, have that sort of leverage and flexibility to get work done?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's very important. And also the suppliers, the people we work with, we also see that as a partnership. So working with Question Pro, people like yourselves, or with some of our analysis software, or whether it's with some of the panel partners we work with. It's all about partnerships and working together. And between us, we can all work these things out. We very early on, we started using Question Pro just over a year ago. Prior to that, we used one of the other survey tools that was available, and it was one that we were familiar with, and that was a traditional research survey software. We got a bit frustrated with it, and we felt we want to be a bit more modern. We want our surveys to look more modern. We want them to be flexible, and we can use them in different ways. And we looked around, we spoke to people, and that's where we came across Question Pro. And Question Pro, this is very sad, but I'm actually quite enjoying scripting questionnaires again. I never thought I'd ever say that. But it's the drag and drop functionality, the range of the simplicity of how you can use Question Pro to design your surveys is fantastic. And an example of this is quite often we will be producing, we need to produce a questionnaire for a client, which won't necessarily be something that we host. It could be something that goes out to a panel partner to host or whatever.
Right.
But we can now design our questionnaires using the Question Pro software, and then do a download for a Word version that can become the paper version that's used with clients. But people can look at it, the questionnaire, you look at the survey we've created, because it's much, much more simple to create a complex grid on Question Pro than it is to use Word to create tables and so on. So the functionality and the ease of being able to do something, and the excitement around being able to use different types of questions. We've just recently upgraded to the research edition, and I'm quite excited because one of our clients, a train operating company, we're doing campaign evaluation for them, and we can use one of the question types. I think it's called Tube Plus, where we can actually show the TV ad and get people to rate it as they go along, the bits they like, the bits they don't like so much, and so on, how it resonates. That's another stage for us that we've not been able to do up till now. And that is really, really important. So the Question Pro survey software sits at the heart of what we do, but at either end of that is the integration with the other stuff that's important for us. Maybe you can talk about integration, Duncan, where it fits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're just on what Jim's saying. It's kind of gone from a situation where the previous software we're using, where we couldn't really do what we wanted to do. Quite often it was like, we'd love to do this, or a client would say, can you do this? And we couldn't. We had to where we can do everything. And actually what Jim's saying now, and we can say, look, we can also do this thing, which you probably didn't even know is possible, and it's great. So we're kind of delighting clients with it. With the integration, yeah, I mean, this is another development. Again, we're always developing. We love new things and trying out different ways of doing stuff. So initially, we would only ever sort of run surveys, sort of full service through a panel company. But obviously, we're now discovering, the way that you can obviously use, approaches such as using Cint and sort of integrating it into Question Pro is so easy, and sort of end to end, and then, doing the analysis, sharing the dashboard that Question Pro provides with clients as surveys are live often, and doing from that. But then we like how you can export the data into SPSS format. We use Q. We're big fans of Q as well. So running analysis there. So yeah, it is something which we've kind of got a process from end to end now, which we're very much, and it means we're also not spending as much time doing things we don't enjoy. So we enjoy scripting now, Jim does anyway, but we also it's more seamless, I guess. So we can spend more of that time talking to clients, thinking out what the data means, giving them sort of the value of our experience as well. So it's working well, really working well.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic to hear. I know our team will be very, very happy to hear that you are enjoying scripting again. I think that's something that our design team has really put a ton of focus in over the last few years. We use the cheeky Make Surveys Great Again acronym to make sure that we're making it fun, right? And you got to make it fun and easy on both sides. One, for the person who's doing the scripting, but then on the other side for the respondent too, right? I mean, it's just got to be such a fluid experience for them if you're actually going to get high quality data and good survey responses coming back. But it's nice to hear how, as a small firm, you're able to leverage technology to be bigger, right? Where you now can do more surveys faster. You've got better ways to engage with your clients, to share reporting and dashboarding. How do you think about the investment to that, right? I see a lot of small kind of, 1, 2, 3 person consultancies in the research space that really kind of don't invest in their own tools and technology. It's very kind of project related, client related. Was that kind of a conscious decision to say, you know what, we're going to invest in our own instead of kind of doing it project by project or just use whatever the client's using?
It's definitely been an iterative, if that's a word, process for us. I mean, I think initially we were very, very cautious. We had to see what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. As we started investing in different tools, we spent a lot of time thinking, is this the right tool for us? We looked at the potential of it, and then we would probably dip our toes in the water a little bit and maybe come in at some of the tools, some of the investments have maybe been made initially we'll dip our toes in the water and use the least expensive option, see how it works, right, and then invest further. And that's frankly what we've done with Question Pro. We played around with the demo version before we invested in it, and so on, until we were comfortable it was right for us. The way we see investment is it's about investing in our business, but also having confidence in giving the right decisions and the best tools that we can manage to our clients. And if we do that, we will get more business from these clients. And we've been quite fortunate in that has been the case. A lot of our clients come back to us in a non-competitive way and say, right, we want you to do this next survey, because Duncan used the words client delight. They were delighted with what they got previously. Right. So that investment is part of growing the business in a sustainable, manageable way. And I quite often, Duncan and I will see something. One of us will see something online or hear from somebody about a tool, and we'll both think, oh, we could use this for X, Y, and Z. Well, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. And so far, we've been quite fortunate. We've not made any really bad decisions. And you can always change. You can always move on to something else anyway if it doesn't work. Right. We've been very fortunate.
It's about choosing the tools or testing them that save time. So that's sort of saving money as well. And also that can really give you something, an edge, I suppose, something different, such as the example Jim was saying for the railway company. Like, we're going to have some really interesting new ways of looking at their advertising that we haven't been able to do before. So that's worth it, we regain the investment is worth it. We get that back in terms of sort of happy clients who keep coming back.
Yeah. And that's got to be so core to your business, right? I mean, in kind of the beginning of the conversation, that was the unique aspect, right? Is, hey, our partnership with these clients, these relationships with these clients, and you're in that great position where you're clearly doing such good work that, hey, when one project is done, you're already talking about the next two. And now, with Research Edition, you're kind of able to say, okay, but now we can also offer you Tube Pulse. Where we can do hotspot analysis, or now, we can do a conjoint or a max diff or a Van Westendorp, where that would cost a lot with another agency to go run. But now you kind of have these tools to make that happen. And that iterative approach makes complete sense to me, right? I mean, as a small business, you can't just go in and say, all right, we're going all out on, the Ferrari from the get-go. But as you kind of are able to see things working, talk with clients, and then kind of take that iterative approach, it seems like it makes a lot of sense for the business. And now you've kind of got this workhorse that will help you go and win more.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah. One thing we were a year into our business when COVID hit, which was a challenge for everybody, as we all know. Lockdown March 2020. And we were as worried as everybody else was. We were quite fortunate over COVID, however, that we'd had a year's trading, and a number of our clients had already, we'd worked with a number of clients already, and they still had to find out how their customers were feeling. They still wanted to know about their behaviors and so on. So the nature of our work changed a little bit, but the nature of our business in terms of the way in which we operate was ideally set up for that. We also saw this as a bit of opportunity sounds isn't the right word, because it was a terrible time. We all remember how we felt in March, April, May during that first lockdown. It was the amount of uncertainty was clear, and we felt with our tourism knowledge and our desire to help the tourism businesses as much as possible, we set up our own self-funded survey then, the Scottish Tourism Index, where we asked, it was a nationally representative survey of the Scottish population, and in early May that year, so just a couple of months, 6 weeks into lockdown, we asked Scots how they were feeling about the prospect of holidays in the future and so on, and we started a journey, if you like, which we didn't know was going to be a journey at that time with this survey. We thought this might be a one-off that we might repeat later on, which provided an awful lot of insight from an online panel approach. Right. We undertook Zoom calls, team calls with lots of different businesses across Scotland and groups of businesses. So, through some of the tourism bodies that exist. And I think over the course of the year, I think we spoke to about 1,000 businesses. We literally used Zoom and other online platforms to show people that information that we were gathering, right, which was subsequently collected on a monthly basis during that first summer of 2019 of COVID. And we have that's the survey actually gained sort of arms and legs in a way. And when we felt, well, it's kind of run its course, we were being asked by people, when are you doing your next wave?
When's the next one? Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind we were financing this ourselves, it didn't cost a lot. That was the good thing about it. The beauty of online research, using panels and using tools like Question Pro and so on. It's simple and easy to do, as we all know. Yeah. We took the decision that we would run this survey, and we're now running it on a quarterly basis. And of course, it's gone way beyond COVID now and focuses on cost of living. But that's something that we saw the opportunity with, and bluntly, we've managed to achieve a lot of tourism business out of that survey that we wouldn't otherwise have got.
Absolutely.
It filled a gap because there was a real dearth of insights. Businesses needed insights, especially that initial period. They're all concerned, scratching their heads, what's going to happen? What are consumers thinking? So we kind of filled that gap. So we were helping, and it was all out there free of charge. We didn't, but I guess, as Jim says, we also established ourselves somewhat as thought leaders in tourism, and it was still good to be doing something. There's no, what can a market researcher do in a time of crisis? I suppose just try and collect insights and share them is probably about all we can do. So we were helpful in that respect, we hope.
Well, this is probably a topic that we can spend a whole another half hour on. I think we will probably need to schedule in a follow-up session to dive into this, because I think what you guys are talking about, I mean, it's kind of that make the most of a crisis type of thing. But frankly, these are the things that every small agency should be doing all the time, right? I mean, this is what the big agencies do, is they have their tracker studies, they have their proprietary panels. But now all of this stuff is available for all two-person consultancies to do as well. And you can see how valuable it is in creating the business, getting more people to your doorstep, creating that kind of unique data set. So it's maybe another follow-up, but I think it's a good idea for all those folks watching the show, because you see it all the time, right? I mean, this is just core to the big agency playbook, and they spend too much money on it, right? I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to spend a lot of money on each of these trackers, but even the small folks can do it too. And I think it's just such a great idea.
Absolutely.
Jim, Duncan, thank you so much for joining the show today. And thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back next week, next Friday, the same time. We'll have another special guest, Ben Kelsey, joining us from Cambridge Design Partnership. We'll be discussing all about how research and insights fits into the product development cycle. So join us then. Thank you again for joining us today, Jim and Duncan, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.